Everyone, it's officially time. Monster Hunter Wilds is here. I have it, not the whole thing. It's an open beta. They basically are doing this thing where they're letting people try it to test server infrastructure, to test all sorts of stuff. But if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you can try it right now. And if you're on Steam or Xbox, you'll be able to, but it's just gonna take another few days. But in this video, I wanted to give you an idea of what the game actually has to offer. I've been playing it for the last few hours with my buddy Corey. Shout out to Corey, who got me into Monster Hunter originally with Monster Hunter World to start with. And so I have some thoughts after doing a handful of monster hunts and seeing what this very, very slim sliver of the game has to offer. But to give you a quick synopsis, I really enjoyed my time so far with Monster Hunter Wilds. I've been pleasantly surprised at how familiar it feels while still offering some fresh ideas. It does not feel like a reinvention. It does not feel like anything totally crazy or wild. It's more Monster Hunter in the best way possible. And while I have a couple of concerns here and there that I'll point out here in just a minute, overall, I am even more confident that this is another Capcom slam dunk, which is perhaps sorely needed in the industry. So we always need more Capcom slam dunks, don't we? So yeah, we're going to talk all about it. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor for this video, HelloFresh. HelloFresh is the meal delivery service that delivers fresh ingredients for you to prep meals right to your front door. They have a big menu for you to pick all sorts of options, whether you're trying to diet or you're just looking for some good soul food, they probably have it available. You make the order and then everything is delivered fresh to your front door with easy to read instructions for the recipes you've ordered, and you put the meals together and enjoy. No more meandering through the grocery store trying to figure out what you're going to do for meals that week. HelloFresh takes all of the headache out of that and just delivers fresh ingredients with the recipes straight to your door. Furthermore, HelloFresh makes it easy to change your delivery from week to week. So whether you're looking for a different type of food or if you're traveling and you need to skip a week, all of that is easy as pie. Yeah, I said pie. You hungry? And to make the deal all the better, they're actually including breakfast for life so long as you maintain an active subscription for everybody that signs up using my codes in the description box or that you see on screen. So check them out today at the link in the video description box below, and make sure to use my code when you sign up so that you get 10 free meals and that free breakfast for life. Okay, thank you, Luke from the past. Let's get back into it. I want to describe my feelings in the opening hour or so, because I started this up. I made like a basic character in the character creator, and then I just was like, start, let's go. And yeah, I'll explain. But I had a little heart attack about 27 minutes or so into this. I was actually a little scared when I first booted it up, because when you first boot it up, you see this screen and then you go through a handful of little cutscenes. And then this happened where I finished a mission. I was like, okay, wait, what's happening? Fade to black. And then I got this splash screen. This was like all of 27 minutes into my playtime. And I was like, no way, this is only a 27-minute beta where we fought one tutorial monster. Like, I can't complain, it was free, but that's so disappointing. But no. It's not like that at all. As you can see, there's another like 2 hours after this. Like, there's a lot more. They just, like, that's where the story progression ends, and then it's just going to open up and let you freely do whatever you want. But yeah, I had a little heart attack when I saw this. I was like, no, it's only 27 minutes. Come on. But there's plenty more. So don't have a heart attack when you see this. Now, the first thing you're probably going to notice is just how different the map layouts are. This is what's particularly striking, and I'm still not totally sure where I land on it. They have totally revamped a ton of things. For one, the map is way better. It's actually usable. It's a full 3D map, so you can actually like trace how the maps are laid out. If you didn't play Monster Hunter Rise or World, like, this probably doesn't look that impressive. But if you played those games, you know how bad those maps were. They were basically unusable, just like pieces of paper basically stacked on top of each other. But now you can actually get in and see individual granularity. My only note on this that I hope they balance as we get closer is it's super sensitive. So if you touch it even just a tad, it zooms out a ton or very quickly. And if you do a hard press where it triggers the adaptive trigger thing, it zooms all the way out completely. So you'll have many times where you accidentally zoom all the way in if you're trying to quickly check a map. So that's something I hope that they tweak and adjust, because it's just a little too sensitive for my liking. But other than that, this is just like wonderful. This is so much better than it used to be. I can't even begin to tell you. I also wanted to show you some more stuff in camp, but a lot of this stuff is not actually available. You try to talk to people and they have like a line saying they're prepping still, and there's nothing else beyond that. So I'm sorry if you were hoping for blacksmith footage. I do not have it. And then there's also this cat over here named Tom, who I was really looking forward to working with, but he also says he needs more time. So this beta is definitely just about getting you in, doing a couple of cutscenes, letting you do character customizer and all of that, and then kind of setting you free to just go and do some random hunts with a few monsters. But other than that, they're not going to do a whole lot. They also have seamless character transitions between like the character creator and then into a cutscene. Like, what is this? This is Monster Hunter? Like, what? When have they ever done anything that smooth and silky? I mean, come on. That is pretty. They then take you and have you do like the tutorial boss fight where it's just introducing you to the basic mechanics of the game. They introduce here like the first big change, which is that they have a new focus mode designed around targeting weak points that are generated dynamically in combat. So as you're fighting a monster, you might wound it on the elbow, and then that will create a weakness that you can then target and break effectively. It's a cool idea for a system. Sometimes it works better than others. Some monsters, they'll get a weak point like in the small of their back where you can't really get to them if you're using a lot of different weapon types, at least not easily. So there's been some frustration, but I'm sure that also is just a matter of growing pains. There you can see the glowing red spot while in focus mode that opens the wound so that you can target it and deal increased damage there. Speaking of multiple weapons, they do now support using multiple weapons. You can actually have 2 on your person just based on your playstyle. So if you want to play with a great sword and then a hammer, you can do that. If you want to play with dual blades and great swords, you can do that. Like, they really empower you to choose what you want to do and how you want to play. Most players, I think, are going to have a ranged option and then maybe a close range option, which I think is a decent way to do it. But it does often feel like you just end up playing the same way you would normally play Monster Hunter, and that might just be because I play Monster Hunter the way I learned how to play Monster Hunter with Monster Hunter World. So I get my big weapon and I swing for the fences, and that's just what I do. And so having the option for multiple weapons is something I'm not used to, and I'm sure it's going to take me more than just a few hours in the beta to get a feel for how dynamic that could be. Plus, the monsters we were fighting are like the tutorial monsters. Like, some of them are tricky and chaotic and frantic, but none of them are so challenging that like you really need to use everything at your disposal. Like, for the most part, they're pretty straightforward. The one exception being this dude. He is pure chaos. Me and Corey went at him, and I mean, it was a lot. You can see he does a lot of damage. it was tough, but yeah, we had a really good time, and it's good to be back. Now, for those wondering whether or not this is like a total reinvention or this is a massive step up, like, oh man, look at that. I almost got one shot with that. If you're wondering if this is going to be like a huge evolution or something, it's frankly not, as far as I can tell. This is a refinement. This is an iteration. It's not a revolution, okay? And I think that's okay, because I didn't think the Monster Hunter formula was broken or anything. They've done some things, like they want to have this sort of seamless transition between the camp, and then when you go out on quests and hunts, they want to have a seamless transition between different areas that you go into, different environments that look totally distinct and different. And they do a good job of pulling that off from what I've seen. Only one map so far, but from what I've seen, they've done a really good job of that. But it doesn't feel that much different from Monster Hunter World. There's a couple of little bitty tweaks and changes, like the focus mode. Some weapon types, you're probably going to be using focus mode for extended periods of time, and that's just going to be how you do stuff. Other times, you're going to be not really relying it that much. Like, as you can see here with my my longsword, I didn't really feel the need to use the focus mode that much because of the sweeping nature of the attack. It didn't really pinpoint areas that much, so I didn't feel the need to use it a ton. But you can see just how dynamic these areas are. You're meant to move from place to place. It's reminiscent of Monster Hunter World, but it still feels distinct at the same time. They of course also have these environmental things where they want there to be storms that come in and go out seamlessly as you play. The environment should change. Certain animals and monsters should only come out during certain types of weather or certain times of day, basically. And so they just want it to feel more realistic in that sense. Now, having said that, when it does decide to transition out of the storm, you'll see how quickly it does it just into regular daylight. Here it's storming, and then there's going to be a point up here where it stops and it will go back to just regular daytime, and it's super sudden and abrupt, and then it's just back to normal. In this case, we went back to fighting within a pit, which was a whole other thing, but it happens very, very quickly. Maybe a slower transition could be nice if they could tweak that. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a little like, oh, it's daytime now. It's just, oh, okay, well, storm's gone, whatever. So we've established it doesn't feel like that big of a revolution or anything crazy from what we've seen before. I think that's totally fine because I was perfectly fine with how the formula was working beforehand. But setting that aside, how does the game actually run? How does it actually function in moment-to-moment gameplay? Well, I'm of course playing this on PS5. That's the only place where it's available right now. As you can see, there's a lot of artifacting that's going to happen at any given time, where you can see all sorts of bizarre, I think these are transparency artifacts or like, I don't think they're upscaling artifacts. Somebody explained to me what these are, but basically it's that checkerboard pattern you can see in some games, especially from Capcom, where they might be struggling to hit a specific resolution, so they render at a quarter resolution, then kind of guess on the rest. And pretty much no matter where you look, even though this is a 4K super high bitrate capture, you can see that pretty much all detail in the grass is gone, even as the text remains sharp. Everything behind it is super blurred. This is not going to be like the sharpest game. It's not going to be the most cutting edge 4K 60 whatever. There were plenty of times where it was struggling to run smoothly at all, and I'm sure that's only going to improve as we get closer to launch, but it's definitely something you notice when you're playing. When I first booted it up, I was like, oh, is there performance modes or something I can do? Is there something? But it's just how the game runs. Is it that big of a deal? No. Like I said, we played for 3 hours. After the first 5, I tuned it all out and I was engaged by the game. It really wasn't that big of a deal, to me at least. But if you're somebody who's super sensitive to that type of thing, I think it's something to be aware of. But to kind of wrap up all my thoughts based on the very limited slice that I've seen and played so far, I think that it's more Monster Hunter, and I find that exciting. I'm all in for that. But it does feel currently for me a little bit clunky. There's little bitty things like how to post quests that's just different from how it was in the other games. So it takes you a minute to figure out. And then there's other little bitty things, how the menus work. Like, I'm sorry to be that guy, but like the menus are really, really just text heavy and hard to navigate. I'm sure once you play the game a bunch, you'll get a feel for it and it won't be that big of a deal. Like, the menu system is familiar, but once you go into the specific options, it gets really, really text heavy and it's just hard to navigate. And so that feels clunky, especially when you're trying to figure out how the rest of the game works and how things are supposed to work when you're setting it up, trying to figure out how to get the game going. And then beyond that, like, there's new things where like the mounts that you use, they automatically run to the objective that you have set, which initially sounds nice. Like, oh, I can just have the little fella running where I need him to go. Cool. Well, the thing is, like, you have to manually get him to stop running towards the objective. Otherwise, he just keeps running, even getting stuck into walls or things. If I move my my camera, there we go. If I move that, you can see that there is hold down right trigger or R2 to stop the running in that direction and just stand still. I never thought I would care that much about just standing still, but there's so many times where I was trying to pull up a menu or something and this thing would just keep running in that direction or run into a wall or something. Or sometimes it would even be pinned to the wrong objective, where I would have an objective pinned over here, a custom objective that I wanted, and it would take me to like the separate quest objective that perhaps was totally fair to take me to because it's the quest objective, but it's not the thing I'm actively pursuing in that moment, you know? So it just doesn't do what you want it to do. And the thing is, like, that clunkiness will go away with time as you get used to the game. But this is part of what happens when you're playing a game that's really familiar because it's an iteration of something you played a lot of. I played a lot of Monster Hunter World. I know like the game muscle memory very, very well. So for this to have even small changes feels like massive changes. You know, it feels like a total departure from what I'm used to, even though it's just little bitty changes I'm going to get used to quickly. But listen, I had a great time. And other than some performance concerns and then some like struggles to maintain decent resolutions at times, I was really pleased with the beta so far. At least I'm going to continue playing it because it will continue to let me, and I am very interested to see what the rest of the game has to offer. But at its core, it's more Monster Hunter, much closer to World than Rise, certainly, and I am very, very okay with it. If you were hoping this would be like a huge generational leap or something for the franchise, it doesn't really feel that way. It feels like World, but like 1.5 or maybe even 2.0, like a reinvention of it, but it doesn't feel like a huge leap. It's still very, very familiar. And I think that that's, if anything, more of what I was hoping for, because again, I love World so much. I'd rather them not reinvent the wheel, but that's where I'm at right now. But let me know what you think of all this. Are you going to be playing the beta yourself, or are you going to be checking it out on PlayStation, or waiting till it comes to Steam or Xbox in just like a few days time? Let me know, and I'll consider whether we should cover this game in more detail. Historically, like Capcom stuff doesn't really jive with the Luke Stevens channel that well. People just kind of have already decided they want to play those games, so they don't really feel the need to go and watch content on it. But if you're interested in seeing more stuff on Monster Hunter Wilds, let me know. But until next time, my friends, much love, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.